Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us here at the weekly news update here at Remnant House, home of the strong and very courageous. I'm so grateful for all of you, you awesome folks who hang in there with us. Time change has been a challenge for us, as you can probably guess. We've got trying to adjust quickly, and we had to pick a spot in between because that was tough. So, thank you for those of you with a little grace for us. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing the link, for encouraging our friends to get together as we look at the things going on in the earth from the 10,000-foot view, looking at things through a biblical lens of Bible prophecy. And of course, wanting to understand where we are today and understanding the reality of the things that we're looking at. And so many of the things that we're seeing, again, as I've been telling you, are theatrical performances. So again, uh, be careful out there with making presumptions about some of what you're seeing, because we are in a very, very unique time period, to say the least, in Earth's history. And for those of you joining us for the first time, we do, of course, have our website, remnantwatch.com. That's remnantwatch.com. And I tell you, I am so grateful for the feedback we've gotten on this site. Of course, we have our little banner here on the top. It'll always bring you to the latest weekly news update. And we do have, of course, these handy guides in case you are going to be in need. And I tell you, I think everybody should have at least a copy of those, just for the sake of knowing some of those important survival things. And you do have a search bar here for searching previous weeks or discussions, and you can go back quite a bit. And I'll tell you something, some of the discussions that we've had, wow, we didn't realize at the time that it was prophetic, but there's been so many of our weekly news updates that turned out to be prophetic, um, uh, reviews. And so that is just something that just continues to happen. And we're just grateful that we are sitting here together, united in one accord. How many can feel the draw wanting to make you feel overwhelmed, to make you completely consumed with news, with things that are going on that are outside your power? This is the key, the things that are outside your ability to affect. And why is that critically important for you to see that distinction? Because when they consume you with things you cannot affect, what it does is it takes away your attention, your focus, and your effectiveness on the things you can effect. And so if there's people trying to run away, don't want you to catch them, they may want to, distract you. Maybe you're onto something and they'd like you to look somewhere else. Maybe, you think? How many of you think? How many of you are looking at the news going, this is interesting timing? You have all of Europe going, okay? They're not really on board with some of what we're seeing in the Middle East. And it's interesting timing. I mean, I know you find it all very interesting timing, don't you guys? I do. So let's dig into this theatrical performance, right? And let's get into the news. And tonight's top story, of course, we're seeing President Trump saying Iran will be hit very hard. Yes, Iran is getting hit very hard. Yes, absolutely getting hit very hard. But we're going to take a very close look at this, folks, because you're being gaslit. All right. So you know me, I don't pull punches. I tell you how it is, and you may not like some of the things I tell you. Trump admits there may be very good reason to send U.S. troops into Iran as fresh wave of airstrikes pummel Tehran. And Trump's swipe at Starmer. We don't need people that join Israeli President Benjamin. We will continue with all our force. And we don't need people that join wars that we've already won. So, of course, they're continuing to go back and forth. The President Donald Trump admitted he may possibly have to deploy U.S. troops to the ground in Iran. And so there would be a very good reason for him to, there has to be a very good reason for him to do so. And I think they shouldn't have started this entire conflict to begin with. So once again, a very good reason to do so has left the building, as far as I'm concerned. Putting our American troops in harm's way at this point is adding insult to injury. This is just my opinion. I love getting these conversations going to see what you guys think, because I know many of you have been watching some of these events for as long as I have. Some of you are with me on some of these things that we've been paying attention to for multiple decades. And we knew that this war was coming. It was just a matter of time because we kept hearing about it and hearing about it and hearing about it. And now it's here. And now we may regret that it is. And so there are certain things that are now starting to snowball in this conflict. And we're going to go over some of these things right now, folks. And I want to tell you, it's not as cut and dried as they like to make it sound. Yeah, you know how they always make it sound like everything is going one-sided and one way. Never is that way. Never believe that, ever. War is a messy business. Don't ever forget that. And so Pete Hegseth, of course, he's got no problem with boots on the ground. He's saying Hegseth vows U.S. will go as far as we need to topple Iran's regime as conflict escalates, including possible boots on the ground. So again, warming us up to the concept of a much more heated fight, a much more intense battle. And so now that they have said that, none of these air effects will work because Iran is now moving into a position where their attitude is, okay, fine, we'll just prepare for the ground war. So it is probably now inevitable that there will need to be ground troops in order for there to be any effective surrender in Iran. Unless, of course, they start unleashing weapons of serious levels, and they've already unleashed quite a few. So it would be a major increase in weapons that are being utilized. And of course, there's a lot of things going on at the same time. General Petraeus is calling for the immediate sanctions on Russia over alleged intelligence support to Iran. And so it was not hidden that Russia supported Iran. And not exactly a surprise to us to find Russia on Iran's side. Retired 4-star General David Petraeus is calling for an immediate sanctions against Russia after reports that Moscow is providing Iran with intelligence support. Assistance, he says, could explain the improved accuracy of Iranian missiles and drone attacks. Well, what accuracy is he referring to, folks? I mean, isn't this all one-sided? Isn't everybody seeing just one side whooping going on here? President Trump should ask Congress to pass the sanctions bill that is in the Senate, Patriots told the Sunday briefing. And of course, Senator Graham has over 90 of 100 senators support it. It would be a very powerful signal to Russia. Again, we're at war. There's a war going on here. Russia lost its high ground and its negotiation capability when it just rebuffed President Trump when he came into office and tried to squash the Ukraine conflict, if you guys all remember. He was made to look bad by Russia. And so he's not going to take their phone call and listen to them saying, you should stop the fighting. They're not going to listen because you didn't listen when I called you. When I asked you to chill on Ukraine, you wouldn't listen to me. So why should I listen to you? Right? So that was an easy conversation to figure out, and I didn't even have to be there. And so I'm pretty sure we're going to see more of this going on for a minute. And Putin is probably trying his best to mitigate some of this. But nevertheless, again, everyone's lost the high ground here. They've also lost the plot. So this is getting really crazy. But this is where we are, folks. This is the world you and I, we all find ourselves in. And so now they're out guaranteeing. Well, they're going to guarantee it. Watch this. Pete Hegseth guarantees that Iran will surrender. They're going to surrender. I got news for you. This is not going to go the way they think. I'm sorry, but have they met the Iranians? These are people that you can beat them and beat them and beat them, and they will still. I mean, this is going to be no joke. This is going to be a hard fight. And here's some of the things that you don't know. And there's only certain things I'm able to share with you. So you're going to have to do some of your own homework because there's only so much that I'm able to put out up here. But I'm going to tell you right now that if you do some homework, somebody like, I don't know, Benjamin Fulford or somebody like that, you might find out that it's not a one-sided conflict at all. And that, that way Gaza looked? Well, Tel Aviv's looking a little Gaza-like. Can't show you footage, though. You want to know why? It's illegal. Yeah. So we're just watching this whole thing unfold, going, wow. I've got reports that are unconfirmed that there are several aircraft carriers that are currently unusable. They are on fire and they are no longer in the fight. So um, this whole one-sided look that keeps being, pushed is not accurate. Okay, it's not accurate at all. There were, of course, reports in the California Post that the Iranian regime had plots to recruit kill teams and assassinate the president of the United States. And of course, we know that there were several events or attempts at his life. So now they're, of course, painting them as bloodthirsty. And I do think that there's definitely going to be some hatred going back and forth. So, with the whatever it takes attitude, you're going to see that. So do we now have ourselves in? Are we now in a full-on conflict? Absolutely, folks. If you thought this was just going to be an operation or a Maduro type of thing where they just go in and out and it's all over, Venezuela is just sitting there. Nope, that isn't going to be the case. This was a conflagration that has been planned for a long time. It has an end. It has a purpose. And you may start to figure out what it is. But make no mistake about it. We have entered a very dangerous time. The UAE launched the first strike inside Iran, and it targeted a desalination plant. And this got me very upset, actually. I really did not like this at all. I'm very glad to hear that it wasn't the United States, so that's good. That it wasn't the U.S. that actually did this, because I thought this was reprehensible. Nevertheless, it was still done. And so I don't know what military value this has. An exclusive report, the UAE struck an Iranian desalination facility in response to continued attacks. Israeli officials view the strike as a signal saying the UAE may join the war if Iranian attacks escalate. And so sustained missile and drone fire after sustaining missile and drone fire, the United Arab Emirates carried out a strike inside Iran. And of course, again, this strike does not affect the regime as much as it affects just the people of Iran. So, of course, always the victims. Who are the victims of these wars? The average person who had nothing to do with any decisions to go to war. Just as the average citizen does not have a decision if the United States suddenly is attacked. You'll have to deal with it. You weren't involved in the decision to make. You've even got politicians, senators, congressmen, so forth, that are all objecting to this horrible, horrible display. And nevertheless, here we go. So, in the same way that you are not necessarily responsible for the decisions being made, neither are they. And yet we are all in this together. So this is perhaps a unifying moment in a way that they didn't see coming. Maybe we will all get together and say, it's these dudes who think firing things and shooting things solves stuff. These are the ones that, get rid of them, we may be able to go on with the world and move on without it, right? So Putin, of course, he's not thrilled. So he's calling for the immediate halt to the Iranian conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his condolences to Iran's president over the numerous civilian casualties resulting from the armed Israeli-American aggression against Iran. And what I find hypocritical about this, and here, this is a very, very, I'm just gonna say it the way it is. Where was this dude when there were 30,000 Iranians or 20,000 Iranians being killed on the street of Iran who were protesting? You didn't see him make a comment then. They even killed 20,000 Iranians. So they were killing way more people while they were protesting, while they were just, normal or prior to this conflict, and you didn't see a word from Putin. So to me, this is, again, more theatrics. This is more, mind your business. You should be stopping your fight over Ukraine. And you're going to continue to see more of this saber rattling. I think it justifies what they're trying to do. I think they're all in on it, folks. I'm sorry, but it looks too coordinated and it looks way too fake. There's not enough emotion. You guys are at war. The people that look like they're really at war are the Iranians. Okay. They look like they didn't want to play this dumb game. And they're very upset that they got dragged into this. That's how they're acting. They're acting like, no, we don't want to participate in your thing. Okay, we don't want to play. And you keep forcing this on us. And I'm telling you right now, you guys, not right now. You're not going to see it right now. But at some point, you're going to see Tel Aviv. At some point, you're going to see Tel Aviv. And then is when you're going to know this was far from a one-sided conflict. Okay. Israel's taking a, as one person said it, they're taking a hiding. They're taking a hiding. They're taking a whooping right now. I saw over 100 U.S. special forces that were captured. I saw a video I can't confirm, so I'm not going to show it with you. But it is very, very concerning that that is the case. And again, if that is the case, let's hope against it. But nevertheless, it's a conflict. What do you expect? What do you expect to see? What do you expect to have happen? How is it that the Iranians are able to almost at will attack and destroy many of the military assets of the United States throughout the Middle East? Just in a matter of weeks, all kinds of stuff has been destroyed. So again, thinking that this is a one-sided conflict is a mistake. And again, I mentioned to you that if you dig, you'll find that there are aircraft carriers and other things that are not exactly operational at the moment. So is this a one-sided, we're just going to walk in, wipe them out, and take care of business? Doesn't look like it. And so this is now they're talking about a good reason. Here's a good reason for them to go send in troops. The U.S. is weighing sending special forces to seize Iran's nuclear stockpile, which would, of course, end the debate on that particular point. Nevertheless, I don't think that actually happens. I don't expect that. So the U.S. and Israel have discussed sending special forces to Iran to secure a stockpile of highly enriched uranium at a later stage of the war, according to 4 sources with knowledge of the discussion. So are they going to send in troops directly into Iran, and how does this play in Bible prophecy? Well, first of all, what you're seeing here is a manipulation of Bible prophecy, as you've been seeing for the last several hundred years. This is something that has been going on continuously in an effort to deceive the people of Earth. This is just the latest iteration of it, folks. And so now we're seeing yet again more and more of the same. And I believe we're being theatrically drawn toward what they want to be a great reset, and they need to set the stage for it to happen. So, you can't blow up your own stuff, so you got to have other people do it for you. Just saying. That's a thought. Just what's your thoughts, guys? Great Britain is not in great shape. They've only got a couple of days worth of gas stored, while Iran war threatens to disrupt supplies. So again, who's the people that are going to be hurt? The average citizens. Who are they actually putting the press on? The average citizens. I don't look at what they're saying they're doing. I look at what they're actually doing. National Gas insists storage broadly in line with levels of the time of year despite disruption in tankers. Well, Great Britain has only 2 days of fossil gas stored after a decline in energy reserves as more tankers carrying liquefied gas are diverted from their course to Europe toward Asia because of the Iran war. So this trend will continue and will, in fact, affect the citizens of Great Britain. So once again, they're putting the people that want to put under a pressure under that pressure. And it's interesting who they're doing it with. So I would expect to see other countries come under pressure as well that are part of what they're trying to sort of reset. So again, I would expect to see this expand so that they can get their reset done the way they want. Again, it's all theatrics. None of this is, if you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, it's Bible prophecy being fulfilled. Yeah, that deceivers will and seducers will wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Yep, that prophecy is definitely being fulfilled without question. So you're definitely seeing evil men and seducers waxing worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Did you know there was an explosion, a minor damage, but nevertheless an explosion at U.S. Embassy in Oslo, Norway? So again, conflict starting to expand. I believe they're all connected. The explosion struck the consular entrance to the U.S. Embassy in Oslo. According to Norwegian officials, the blast caused minor damage, but no injuries were reported. And I don't think it's necessarily going to be huge things. It's going to be small things that continue to be a challenge going forward. So now you've upset the Venezuelans. And I understand you got troops. We're going to look at this here in a minute in Ecuador. We'll go to there. You're upsetting people up and down the this part of the world. Then you've got enemies you're building everywhere over the Middle East. I mean, that's going to be fun. You've really upset Europe quite a bit. That's been interesting. We've got to have Greenland. So, all in all, how's the U.S. doing in terms of its foreign policy and its international influence in general? Talking about taking a massive level of step back in terms of not only diplomacy but the quality thereof. So these are all things that will massively backfire in the short and medium and long term. They're already going to start backfiring in the short term. I don't think this was a good choice. And if this was to cover up attention being drawn to other things, that makes it even a worse choice, because now you took on an enemy you may not be able to beat. Yeah, that's right. You heard me right. Iran might just put a whooping. Just might. And you go, what? No, they're getting beat. That's what your news is telling you. Okay. And right now, Iran is threatening Israel with a nuke. Did you know that? Yeah. They're putting out video saying that they're going to nuke Israel with a chilling image showing a missile obliterating Tel Aviv. Now, again, as I've told you, Tel Aviv right now looks like Gaza. You guys know what Gaza looks like, right? Tel Aviv looks like Gaza. So Iran has been sharing a chilling image of a nuclear missile striking an Israeli city, which appears to be Tel Aviv, in a post on X. Accounting previously belonged to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warned the Khamarasad is ahead. In other words, a reference to the ballistic missile named after the Iranian city. And so while Trump is threatening the big one, there may be other big ones. And the damage done to U.S. ships was done by again, hypersonic missiles. Didn't I tell you guys about those hypersonics, and there weren't any ways to stop them? Well, they used them, and they struck their targets. So we've got some burning ships in the Gulf. We also have, they have torpedo technology that I heard about today that moves like it moves in the water. It moves the same way it moves in the water in the air, which is considerably faster than typical torpedo technology. And they're talking openly about this tech now. They're not hiding it anymore, and they're flat saying, they're going to continue to use their technology to defend themselves. And again, I'm not saying that they're going to win. I'm not saying that the Iranians are going to defeat the United States in open conflict. What I'm saying is this isn't going to be as easy as they thought. Okay? When you really look at the damage, it's not going to be as cut and dried as they tried to pretend to make it look. And so, basically, there continues to be more and more discussions. Of course, they all want the conflict to end, the kind of weaponry that can be brought to bear could be formidable. Again, not everything is being shared, right? So, excuse me there, folks. Not everything that is there is being shared. So, I think we're long from the end of this conflict, and I think there were certain losses that they were expecting to take and then expecting to do differently going forward. Did you guys have a problem with audio? Does anybody have a problem hearing me tonight? Anyone having a problem hearing me? Give me a 5 by 5 out there if you don't mind, folks, as we go on. The IDF is planning for at least 1 to 2 more weeks of Iran operations, and that's according to this report. Basically, they're planning on over 5,000 bomb drops. Air Force officers say Israeli strikes have killed thousands of Iranian troops. IDF officials describe conflict as the first full-scale joint military campaign by Israel and the U.S. This is a war in English. That's how they call it. This is a war in English. The Israeli military is planning for at least 1 or 2 more weeks of operations against Iran, during which it aims to hit thousands more Iranian regime targets. The Times of Israel learned on Wednesday Israel's goal is a systematic degradation of the Iranian regime and its military sites. The plans were announced several days into an extensive bombing campaign against Iran. So again, Iran is taking a pummeling without doubt. There's no question that they are being hit hard. Nevertheless, they are still in this fight to some degree. And there's no ground offensive that has, in fact, and their government has not been toppled. It's not seen, it's seen better days, but it's not been toppled. So we're still watching to see if this pressure will, in fact, yield the result that they're hoping it yields. It will be interesting to see if that, in fact, happens. I'm certainly interested to see it. Um, and Iran is denying it fired a missile toward Turkey. There was big news that it had fired a missile toward Turkey, but it's denying that. The ballistic missile was shot down by NATO forces before it reached Turkish territory. Turkey's defense ministry said the missile was detected to have been launched from Iran. So there is conflict there that may be brewing between Turkey and Iran, which, if Turkey gets in the fight, that does change it a little bit. And I think the United States is hoping that more Arab countries will get into the conflict with Iran, and so that it does not have to be the United States alone. Again, the United States took serious damage to multiple military vessels in the Gulf. So you haven't heard about that yet. You will be. And of course, what you are hearing about is how we're sending over our biggest and baddest weaponry, right? So powerful U.S. bombers are going over there. You've got powerful U.S. bombers that can carry 24 missiles arriving at a UK airbase as Trump warns Iran, the big one is coming, right? And so he's warning American bombers can carry 24 missiles and reach speeds of 900 miles per hour, land on a UK base Friday, days after President Trump warned Iran this week that the big one could be imminent. And of course, there's a lot of people speculating about this. The B-1 Lancer reached RAF Forford and Gloucestershire. According to BBC, it was reported earlier in the week that a fleet of mighty U.S. aircraft, mighty UCAF U.S. military aircraft, were slated to arrive at that military site, Diego Garcia in the Chagos Islands. And so we're going to watch and see if this escalates further. It looks like it will be. And based on the reports that we're getting, it looks like people in Iran had better prepare for further conflict. Now, you would think that they would be running to do a full unconditional surrender and just, hey, we're good, we're done, we don't want to fight anymore. No, this is what I'm trying to tell you about the Iranians, okay? They rejected a ceasefire negotiation, and they say they're ready for a U.S. ground invasion. There's like, bring it. They are seriously saying, bring it. Iran is prepared for possible ground invasion by U.S. troops, the country's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Thursday, as the war launched by the U.S. and Israel continues to escalate. And he told NBC News that Iran is ready to counter U.S. forces after U.S. President Donald Trump refused to rule out the possibility of boots on the ground earlier this week. We are waiting for them, Araghchi said, because we're confident that we can confront them, and they would be a big disaster for them. Well, I got to say, so far it's been a big disaster for the Iranians. So if this is part of their plan, they're doing a terrible job executing it because they've lost something like 29 ships. They've certainly taken a pounding all over their country. And if they're somehow pretending this is somehow part of a great plan, that's not looking good either. So it looks to me like both sides are just full of it, just a little out of it. But nevertheless, they continue to fire ordnance. So despite all these attacks, somehow both sides still have weapons to shoot. U.S. sanctions, of course, are affecting this whole thing, as U.S. sanctioned Mojtaba Khamenei, Mojtaba. He's sanctioned by the U.S. and he's named Iran's next supreme leader after his father's death. So he's walking in already sanctioned. And so this is, of course, not a good scenario. And President Trump has already said that he feels he should have a say in who the next leader of Iran is. We'll see how that works out. Okay. But there's a tremendous amount of support going on for this in different places. And of course, some Iranians are celebrating U.S. and Israeli strikes. So there is some support going on for the other side, but nevertheless, it is going to be a telling conflict. And I think we're going to continue to see this, folks. And I really do want your thoughts because, again, there are more players involved than we're really giving credit for. And China is one of them. I just saw in the comments, somebody commented about China. It's a great point. It's a great observation. The reality is that the United States doesn't have the kind of support that Iran would have if it did, in fact, turn the tide in any portion of this conflict. Because, again, the agitators in this conflict don't enjoy the support of the international community. There are European countries that are calling this an illegal action, calling this international crime. Again, normally, in the Bush era, the era that many of us remember when they first started these campaigns, they always had to build a coalition, of nations that will come together into the rule of law. We're going to have to do this under the rule of law. Remember all those speeches about the rule of law? Remember all that? Where's that now? We just dumped that. This is a different Republicans now. They no more rule of law conversations going on. Now we're just going to go get them. We're just going to go get them. Okay. So that was progressive. That just kind of kept going. And now here we are. Again, the Iranians are making their own threats. And this is what tells me this is not going to be over anytime soon. U.S. will bitterly regret sinking Iranian warship, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warns, as Ayatollah calls for Trump's blood. Then if they got nothing else, they go down with a fight, these guys, okay? So you thinking they're going to just crawl and beg and all that? That isn't going to happen. The U.S. will bitterly regret the precedent has set, okay? And, of course, they torpedoed an Iranian ship. And so now, of course, that's open season on ships. So we're going to continue to see that. Again, if you guys got people in the Navy, you're going to get more accurate information than you're going to get from the news. If you got people down in that area, you're going to get more accurate information than you're getting from the news about what's really happening. And again, the attacks are going back and forth. Iranian oil facilities were struck by Israeli Air Force, military sources say. So this is contributing, of course, to the dramatic increase in oil prices of crude oil. And earlier, Iranian state media had reported that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said it had targeted the Haifa oil refinery in response. And so there are back and forth going on here. And again, remember, guys, the last conflict, Israel was down, I think, to one refinery, if I remember correctly. So if that gets hit, they have no refinery. IDF sources confirmed to Jerusalem Post on Saturday night that the Air Force has attacked significant oil resources in Tehran region of Iran. According to the sources, the oil resources being attacked are directly connected to Iran's military industrial complex. So they're justifying the attack by saying that while it affects directly the military, if you will, it was unclear what distinctions the IDF would make in such attacks regarding differing oil sites, but there was a clear effort by the sources to emphasize the military nature of the site. So clearly they're trying to make it sound as if nothing else, that they're executing this war in a way that is meant to go around the civilian population. That's always the rhetoric. Is that what we saw in Gaza? Did they go around the civilians? They didn't? Oh. So much for that effort. And that was right there in their backyard. And you're telling me that they're going to do so in Iran. Got it. I think they would turn Iran into Gaza if you let them. Right? So this is, again, here we go. And Iran, again, Trump says no deal with Iran to end without a unconditional surrender. So he's already made his line in the sand, made it very clear just this last week before Shabbat that there would be no deal. President Trump said there would be no deal to end the U.S. war against Iran without an unconditional surrender by Iran. Trump said that after a surrender, the United States and allies would work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. So dangling the carrot in front of the Iranian people, saying, dump these guys. We will help you rebuild your country. We will come in and we will help you economically. We will help you rebuild. Everything we blew up will help you rebuild it. So now you got to wonder if you're attacking targets you want to rebuild. It's just like, there, and I don't think the Iranians are necessarily the people of Iran are falling for it. They're not jumping at this. And in fact, there's starting to be some pushback. U.S. crude oil tops $80 per barrel as escalating Iran war disrupts global fuel supply. So much for reducing oil prices. This is definitely going to increase them. Tanker traffic through the Straits of Hormuz remains at a standstill as Iran attacks vessels. So tanker traffic is a big deal. Tankers cannot get through the Straits of Hormuz, which is a critical passageway for oil. Oil prices have surged about 20% just this week, and retail gasoline prices have jumped nearly 27 cents since last week to $3.25 per gallon. And President Donald Trump said Thursday that further action to reduce pressure on oil is imminent. So I'm not sure how they're going to pull that off if they keep blowing up refineries. So let me see if I got this right. You blow up a refinery, which of course incentivizes them to blow up a refinery. So now we're going to reduce refinery capability. How's that going to affect the oil prices of oil for remaining refineries? You just now reduce the supply capability. That now is going to cause an increase in pricing. If you blow a few more of those up, it really dramatically increases it. So that's not going to work. That plan's going to backfire when you're using weapons to try to execute economic policy. Once again, folks, keep saying this is a foolish thought to use weapons to execute efforts to bring about peace. What are you going to do? How are you exactly going to come out of that? It just doesn't make any sense. And now we're seeing, again, I warned about this before. We talked about this weeks ago, that conversation in this hemisphere, especially concerning some of these South American countries, has gotten to a fevered pitch. Now we just saw this headline. Trump's telling CNN that Cuba is soon going to fall. This guy can't stop picking fights. Look at this. And I'm going to put Marco over there. He's okay. So here we have Trump once again pretty much declaring war on Cuba. Just letting Cuba know, by the way, you next. You next. I'm coming to get you. Yeah. I'm coming to get you. I'm going to go deal with these guys first. Then I'm going to come and get you. What would you do if you were Cuba? Wouldn't you prepare? I mean, what would you do if you were some of the other countries that you think you might be on the list too? You might have to start having conversations like, oh my goodness, this is getting out of control. Okay. So folks, there's a reason why there's a lot of people going, whoa, wait a minute. Because the precedents that are being set are not well thought out. And then the United States is stretching itself even further by sending troops to Ecuador. Yep, that's right, Ecuador. Did you even hear about that? Probably not. U.S. launches military operations in Ecuador, the joint military operations with Ecuador, targeted what the U.S. is calling designated terrorist organizations in the country. So again, we've got new fronts opening up left and right. U.S. forces have launched military operations with Ecuador against designated terrorist organizations inside the South American country, Southern Command said Tuesday. The military released no details on the operations, but suggested in a statement that it was an extension of strikes carried out by the Trump administration against suspected drug trafficking organizations in the region. And so they continue to execute as a war the bringing down of the cartels, and that, of course, will make interesting bedfellows of some of those that are now finding themselves on the other end of the U.S. military. Now, will that cool given the hiding that Israel is taking right now? I don't know. The way that they're talking, it's like they've got unlimited weapons and they don't care what happens. They're just going to keep going. So this could be just insanity chasing crazy. So it's really, really something to behold. And drone strikes, of course, torch oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz as Iran's blockade halts global shipping. So much for their dominance, because why in the world do we have ships in the Straits of Hormuz that are on fire? And that's exactly what we have. There's ships that are not moving because of the threat that Iran has made. And several ships were already burning in the Gulf. So the Straits of Hormuz, for all intents and purposes, have been shut down just by threat alone. And again, I told you about these Russian hypersonic missiles that they sold to Iran. It looks, at least that's what it looks like to me. I'd love your thoughts on it, because that's what I think. And I think it is true that Russia is not our friend here, right? So this is going to get dicey. This entire thing looks like it's World War slowly unfolding. That's what it looks like. World War slowly unfolding, which of course has got nothing to do with Bible prophecy necessarily. It's got to do with just men being men. Okay, in that there will be constant wars and rumors of wars, and this cycle would just continue. There are some other cycles that continue in the United States, And idolatry is one of them. Idolatry brings a certain result. And I believe we're going to continue to see this result. We've got monster Michigan tornadoes, death tolls climbing as multi-vortex tornadoes rip through America's heartland with almost 70 million people under severe weather warnings. At least 8 people have been killed. It's a series of monster tornadoes ripped through the heartland of the United States, which forecasters warn could be set to continue. So the twisters began Thursday as part of a volatile system stretching from the southern plains all the way to the Great Lakes, which wreak havoc across multiple states. And almost 70 million Americans are currently under alert for some form of extreme weather heading into the weekend. And this is, of course, coming into last week. And now we're coming out the other side realizing, whoa, this was no joke. There were, in fact, some serious damage as a result. We'll get to that here in a minute. But the point is that the United States is definitely not in a great spot. And the scripture tells us in the book of Hosea, that idolatry brings the whirlwind. You guys can look it up for yourselves. Maersk, a bellwether for global trade, is suspending 2 key shipping services due to the Iran war. So is that going to affect you? You bet it is. It's going to affect the way goods move, and that's going to affect costs, which means it's going to affect the average guy. Shipping giant Maersk said on Friday it had temporarily suspended 2 services linking the Middle East to Asia and Europe due to the escalating war in the Middle East. So not going away, folks. Certainly not stopping. Escalating war. The update comes as the Iran war enters its 7th day and the regional conflict continues to disrupt global supply chains. So again, anybody thought this was going to be a quickie is wrong. China, they're definitely not thrilled, right? But they're on their way to doing other things too. You know, China has a way of taking advantage of these things in a different way, and they're interesting. So China could see widespread use of brain-computer tech in 3 to 5 years. Interesting that came out during this time. So they kind of slipped that one under the radar. China could see brain-computer interface, BCI. They gave it a name. They gave it a name, guys, an acronym. It's official, BCI. From now on, when you see BCI, you know what it means. It means chip in your brain, BCI. You hear that? Technology move into practical public use within 3 to 5 years as products mature, a leading BCI expert say, as Beijing races to catch up with the U.S. startups, including Elon Musk's Neuralink. And Beijing's elevated BCIs is a core future strategic industry in its new 5-year plan released this week, placing it alongside sectors as quantum, embodied AI, 6G, and nuclear fusion. You see where they're going? Are you paying attention? Do you plan on? Here's what I want to know, and that's the question I'm going to ask all of you, especially you grandpas, because I'm calling the Grandpa Brigade together. That's right, Grandpa Brigade. We have to get together because our grandchildren look us in the face and say, "Did you know about this, Grandpa?" Yeah, I knew. And now the next question is going to come. What did you do about it? Did you just let them? Moving on. Peter's not subtle. And of course, CENTCOM is, of course, they're bragging. They're already saying, we got control of the skies, man. And man, pride goes before the fall is all I got to say. That looks scary to me. You guys need to stop being that way. But here we go. And of course, we saw quietly, Kristi Noem was ousted from Homeland Security. She was, of course, did not come out very well in the Minneapolis situation, which you saw was downplayed and left the news cycle. So they definitely got rid of that. And in the process, got rid of Kristi Noem, ousted from Homeland Security post amid recent turmoil. Trump reportedly was furious with Noem's performance in congressional hearings this week over controversial ad contract. And so the former South Dakota congresswoman and governor who has led President Trump's Department of Homeland Security in his second term was ousted from her position on Thursday. And so she served well, they would say. You know, they're trying to keep it all, positive in the family. And I think they repositioned her in the government. The point is, though, the heads roll when they don't follow the program. And that is indicating to us that we have something other than a republic in operation. Okay? You have something other than a republic in operation. You do have, again, these severe warnings. The millions continue to brace for more of these storms. And again, this is not going to be going away. So I just point this out so that those of you that may be catching these broadcasts up in this next week. These severe warnings are going to continue. So don't think that they're going away anytime soon. We also saw something very unusual. 4.9 earthquake hits Louisiana, and that's the second biggest earthquake in the state. So we are definitely interested in seeing what's going on there. Magnitude 4.9 earthquake struck south of Shreveport in Louisiana on Thursday morning. And again, this now here we're talking about things that are beyond man's control as the earth is responding. And the quake had a depth of 3.1 miles and struck 6.2 miles west of Edgefield, Louisiana, in the Red River Parish area. And so we're definitely seeing earthquakes. We just talked about, was it last week, guys, that we talked about South Carolina having an unusual earthquake, right? And now we have this second biggest one they've ever had. Something's going on. So that is of grave concern. Of course, we know that there's a big one coming, but there's a lot of smaller ones that can do a lot of damage along the way. So very interesting time we have entered into, folks. Very, very interesting time indeed. The Supreme Court is not on board with California's new policy to hide the student's gender identity from their parents. Apparently, the Supreme Court did not buy the argument, and so it struck down. It has ruled against the California public school policy that requires teachers to withhold information from parents about whether or not their child or children are transgender identifying in school. So the child is playing it that way in school. In California, they were saying and making it a law that they could do that the parent would not be informed. And of course, the Supreme Court, with some common sense, overruled it. But I have to tell you once again, it's yet another indicator that we need to be very careful about assigning the parental responsibilities to those who do not have your children's best interests at heart. Not to mention the fact that it's looking increasingly like the system itself is, in fact, the hunting ground. So the more we look at this, the more we go, is there a really good reason for us to keep trusting systems and programs that we already see serious areas of vulnerability? So again, grave concern. And finally, we're going to take a look at another element that I think is very much going to affect you. So people look at the book of Revelation and they go, oh my goodness, there's going to be economic things. And yes, because they're dedicated to making you think that certain things are future, they're going to bring this to pass. So you are going to see some serious economic disturbance in the time to come. You're already starting to see it now, and their commitment to this is so rabid that I don't know that you can avoid it. They seem pretty committed to it, and those that did not see it properly coming are paying the price for it. Trump lost, of course, his Supreme Court bid for the tariffs that he conducted, and a loss of $1.7 trillion in tariff revenue will send the national debt to $58 trillion by 2036, according to think tanks. So a landmark Supreme Court ruling against President Trump's tariffs has cost the federal government an estimated $1.7 trillion in projected revenue through 2036, according to a new analyst by the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. And they continue to gaslight the American people on how the Federal Reserve works. They continue to pretend that this is a debt that has to be repaid. This ruse, this constant ruse that they keep putting the people under. That's the part that really gets to me, is because the people are ignorant of how things actually work. They're easy to gaslight. And again, that is just a bunch of nonsense that continues to be used to manipulate the people of Earth, basically. That's what you're looking at there, unfortunately, folks, is a lot of manipulation. And we're also seeing that there's more and more effort now, more than ever, to bring about conflict in smaller type of venues. So you're seeing a stoke up between communities, You're seeing efforts to try to get conflict going in every level. So again, conflict serves their purpose because then they get to come in and say, okay, we're the good guys bringing in the order. Except now they're losing that high ground. So I'm not sure how this all works out. It looks to me like they're just making a huge mess right now. And unfortunately, now they're going to have pressure to release oil reserves and do other things that um, are going to be challenges going forward. So again, short-term decisions, and they may have long-term implications. Iran is, of course, accusing, or I'm sorry, the last story I want to cover is that there is the possibility that there are sleeper cells, and there's a real concern now that the war will take on a more guerrilla type of style, and so there is concern in the nations, and again, you guys need to know about this so you can watch your movements. That there will be some kind of attacks or what have you. So again, is this actually the enemy, or is this going to be used as a cover story? It doesn't matter. Not really. The U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may be as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country, according to the federal government alert sent to law enforcement agencies. So it may very well be that we do have that. It would certainly make sense that people sympathetic to Iran will certainly be motivated to do, whatever harm or what have you. Again, stupid thinking compounds stupid thinking. So once you start doing things like attacking desalination plants, well, don't you open the door for the retaliation to be pretty much the same? So these are things that I think are going to affect all of us. And the thought that it's going to be somewhere over there and not affect you here is part of the challenge that continues and perpetuates these things in the earth. What are your thoughts, folks? And so, yes, somebody says you think he's throwing a tantrum. Well, I don't disagree. I think that what you're seeing is a lot of bad emotion, emotion that should really never have seen the light of day, as far as I'm concerned. Emotion that had nothing to do with actual foreign policy, had to do with ego. And as long as ego is involved, we're going to continue to have more difficulties in the nations, folks. So continue to pray. My encouragement to all of you is to find your fold, discover where you belong. You cannot finish well unless you finish. You can't hear well done till you get something done. So you need to connect in with your brothers and sisters so that you can give a good report at the end of your walk, because it's not going to be that you watched the news or you kept an eye on what other people were doing. It's going to be where you're keeping an eye on what you were called to do. Every one of us have our own role to play, our joint to supply, according to Ephesians chapter 4, where every joint supplies. So my question to you is, where are you supplying? Where are you connected in? Where are you a part of the body of the Messiah? Well, thank you so much for joining us. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you, and I pray you all have great evenings ahead as we go. Shalom.